Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today it is Sunday, the 28th of May, 2023. I am your host, CareyHolzman, and it looks like we're off to a bit of a bumpy start here as my OBS is saying my connection is in the red. Let me know out there how the video looks and sounds, because I might have to get this corrected before we go through with today's video, which I'm super excited about. I apologize, I had originally set this video for 4 o'clock, but I was able to get started a little earlier, so we're at the 3 o'clock mark. Let me make an adjustment here really quick and see if I can fix the streaming issue. Bear with me for a second. And let's see if that helps. Ah, yes, we're in the green now. Okay, so we're using up too much bandwidth in the other room. Let's see. What do we want to talk about today? Storage. One of my favorite subjects is storage. I don't know why, I'm just fascinated with storage. Flash drives, hard drives, CD-ROMs and laser discs, cassette tapes and 8-tracks, albums, and one of the services that I offer in my business is when I go into a client's office and see if it's a service that I can offer them and save them money as a managed service provider. One of the things that I don't know how to say this. One of the things that I enjoy doing is removing servers where they don't need to have servers. So many people in my field think if you want to serve files to people in an office, you need a server. And that's not necessarily true depending on the size of the office. Servers are very expensive. They consume a lot of power. They typically, need to be locked up in a room somewhere with a good air conditioner to keep them running from getting too hot, and require regular ongoing maintenance. And if they don't need to have the logins like that, or they don't, rather, we can still give them logins on a NAS, but with a server, you can host applications. And most of these small businesses that I take on as a managed service provider, they don't have any requirement actually for a server. If they had 30, maybe more than 30 or 40 or 50 employees, then because of the network traffic, we'd probably want a server. But none of my businesses that I manage are that big. They're all under 30 employees. And so I have retired, at least a half dozen servers and replaced them with network attached storage, which takes up less room. It's almost maintenance free. And the business can't really tell any difference other than the cost savings and the uptime. So initially I was using these devices from Seagate called Black Armor NAS. And if you look far enough back in my channel, you'll see I did reviews on them and I loved them. But it started to becoming very unreliable. And so I've always heard good things about companies like Thecus. Are they even still around? Synology, QNAP, and there's one more I'm missing. Anyway, I decided to go with the Synology. That seemed to be the one. People that I respect in my field were using Synology. So if I respect these people, that I'm probably going to like the reasoning why they're picking Synology over others. And so I bought one for myself to see what the difference was, and it was a world of difference. It's like going from DOS, which was the interface, was all text-based interface on the Seagate Black Armor, into like Windows, or going from a regular old smartphone, going from a cellular phone to a smartphone, where you now have an app store and you can download all these apps. Well, that's what Synology brought to the NAS world, and QNAP to the same extent, and probably a couple others I can't think of. But before I make a recommendation to any of my clients, I try it out myself. In this case, I could use a NAS, so I just started using it and getting familiar with how to configure it, how to utilize it, how to deploy it, and was very happy. After about, 6 months, I recommended to my clients with servers, let's pull the servers, replace the NASs, and my clients with Seagate Black Armors, I said, let's get those Black Armors out and put Synology in its place. One of my last clients that got a Seagate Black Armor, unfortunately, got it at the tail end, which means that they didn't have that Black Armor 2 years. And I said, we got to pull it. We got to replace it with the Synology. And my theory, the reasoning that happened was they had a corruption. And I just got done dealing with more and more. The longer I was using these Seagate Black Armor NASs, the more problems I started to have. They were not aging well. And so I thought, I had one client left that had a Black Armor NAS. In fact, the last 2 clients that had them, we ended up having corruption issues. And I used that as the excuse to say, look, let's just retire this thing. We got to do a full data recovery. Now's the time to replace it. Prior to the Seagate Black Armor, I used a Linksys NAS, and that one was fine. I didn't have any problems with that. But so I went from the Linksys NAS to the Seagate Black Armor, which I loved until I found the Synologies. And the Synologies have been my favorite ever since. And all of my clients are running Synologies. We very rarely ever have problems. You know, our good friend Mitch Morrison has a Synology at home. He's had it for like 10 years. And he had some kind of a power spike that occurred, and it killed the power adapter. In Synology, when he contacted support, they said, well, that means your Synology is bad and you have to buy a new one. You know, wasn't true at all. We brought it here and diagnosed it live on camera, put a new power adapter from Amazon or eBay for $13 on it. It's still running today. I had file corruption occur about 2 years ago at one of my clients using a Synology, but the Synology was being abused in a way. It's being used in a way it was never intended to be used, and it was an earlier model Synology. So it was, okay, that Synology had been in place for probably 6 years, and I said, let's just replace it. Let's get a modern day Synology. Part of the problem was I was using desktop drives in the Synology, and while I was getting away with it, it was also causing problems. So it's like, well, we're going to replace the Synology with one that supports the Btrfs file system or Btrfs file system instead of the ext3 file system, whatever it's called. So the NAS they had, the Synology NAS they had, was one of the cheaper models that didn't support Btrfs. And the drives we were using were desktop drives instead of NAS drives. And I said, you know what? This business is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This is no time to cut corners. It's still not a lot of money, but let's do it right. So updated their NAS, and it's a rack-mounted NAS, made sure that it supported Btrfs, and made sure we put in a Seagate Iron Wolf or Western Digital Red mechanical hard drives, which are designed for NAS use. And that's no joke. So yes, you can get away using desktop drives until it doesn't work anymore. If you want this thing to run as reliably as possible, you definitely want NAS-rated drives in your NAS. It's not just a gimmick. It's a real thing, and it does make a difference. Ever since I've been using the Western Digital Reds and the Seagate Iron Wolves, I've had 0 drive failures, 0. Now with one of my clients, the one that had the Black Armor that we upgraded to the Synology, and another one of my clients, I keep track of how old the drives are or when the drives were installed. And every 5 years, we replace the drives. It used to be every 3 years, but now that I'm using NAS drives every 5 years, even though there's no problem with them after 5 years, we want to yank them and replace them with new ones just so we continue to have this perfect uptime. And it's very inexpensive. The drives get cheaper and cheaper year after year. So it's a small expense for the business to have insurance that the data isn't going to get lost due to a failed drive or even have any inconvenience of having to call me to come out because the drive failed. Even though the NAS will continue to work with one failed drive, you definitely don't want it running like that very long, because if you have a second failed drive, you lose everything. So on top of that, we still do regular synchronized backups, which is just simply copying everything off the NAS onto an external USB drive that gets disconnected. So if they get a virus, or if there's a fire or a flood in the building, we still have all the data, and it's a lot of data. Everybody's got more data today than they had yesterday. So the loss becomes a bigger loss every day that we don't back up. So, all right. So now that brings us to where we are today with Asustor. Now, Asustor has been making regular hard drive NASs, and I don't know if they're any good. I've never had any reason to leave Synology, so I'm happy with Synology, and I have no reason to go to QNAP or anybody else for that matter, except that Asus is first to market a NAS, a network attached storage, that uses only NVMe M.2 drives. It does not use mechanical drives. The price on solid state drives has become so competitive now. This is a reasonable solution. And you don't have to spend a lot of money on high performance SSDs because, quite frankly, they're only going to run it by one speed, right? These are like PCIe Gen 3 by 4. This is going to be, I don't know if it's Gen 3 or Gen 4, but regardless, it's just going to be by 1. But it's going to be by 1 times 6 drives. And our bottleneck isn't going to be on our NAS devices not running at full speed. Our bottleneck is on our network. This has a 2.5 gig LAN port on it, which is still a bottleneck for how fast 6 of these are going to run at 1x speed. Furthermore, a lot of clients, including myself, we use wireless devices. And of course, the wireless devices are going to be much slower than what the NAS can do. Furthermore, the NAS can be used as a standalone device to run container files, a virtual server, virtual machine. You can use it as a video surveillance server. So if you have video surveillance, you want it recorded, not just motion, but every time there's just every second of every day, this will do it. So the Asustor has downloadable apps just like the Synology. I have not taken this out of the box. I've never used one before, and I don't know how to configure it. This is a live video, and we're going to figure this out together. This appears to be essentially a mini PC, just that it has 6 M.2 slots in it. It appears to be able to plug into a monitor. I've never seen a NAS that has an HDMI output. Normally you connect to the NAS through the web interface. So I want to see what happens if we plug an HDMI cord in this. Patrick over at ServeTheHome, and there's another channel, this guy in Britain has a channel called NASCompares, and they've done excellent reviews on these, but haven't really shown every step of the setup. I have questions. So I thought, let's do this together. Let's learn together. And then I'm going to use this until I don't like it, or it has a flaw, or until I'm so excited and happy with it that I can start recommending this to my clients. Now, personally, because I'm familiar with this Synology, the way of doing things, I would prefer a Synology unit for my clients for the comfort of the, their can't think of the word. I don't think it's going to be a big learning curve though. And I'm sure Synology is going to come out, as will QNAP, with competitive devices, but Asus is the first one out the gate as far as I know. So what I've got in front of me is the NAS itself. And I have 6 4 terabyte Team Group NVMe drives, M.2. These are under $200 a piece. They're 6 times 4. So it's 24 terabytes. And then we'll put it in a RAID 5 config. So we'll probably lose one of the drives in storage. So that's still 20 terabytes of storage. This should be low power. It should run cooler, be dead silent because there's no moving parts except for a cooling fan. And it has a 2.5 gig LAN port where my Synology's, at least the one I have here, is only 1 gig. Because quite frankly, I don't have a 2.5 gig router. So the streaming computer, I believe that's 2.5 gig. And everything else is wireless, so that wouldn't benefit me. But it might be time to start moving up to 2.5 gig if I have a reason. About 10 years ago, in 2013, I reviewed the Intel NUC, the mini PC that was brand new, never seen anything like it. And it required a new kind of storage called mSATA. mSATA is exactly like an M.2 drive, but it's like an earlier version. It's basically M.1, if you will. and it's only 42 or so millimeter. I don't know the exact length of the MSATA drive, but that was my first and really only experience with that kind of storage. Nowadays, it's all I ever use is M.2 storage. There are certain things that happen in the industry that change everything, and we don't look back. We keep moving forward. So 10 years ago, that Intel NUC was a pretty unique, tiny little computer that was very impressive, and nowadays, they're everywhere. You know, there are NUC competitors out the wazoo. You've seen me review over a dozen and a half, at least, mini computers from various manufacturers. And it's a normal thing. It's like no big deal anymore. It's sort of the no big deal. Nobody bats an eye. They go, oh, okay. And then they keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more powerful and cheaper. So for a lot of people, they don't even need a desktop anymore when the mini PC is cheaper, more powerful, quieter, not as upgradable, not as repairable, but not many people do upgrades in the real, you know, in the actual number of computers that are sold every year after year after year. Most people never even open them up. They just stay exactly the way they purchased them until they retire them or until they need a repair. But repairs have gone down. Components, the number of components that are put on a motherboard or put into any device of computer hardware is going down. So there's fewer components to fail. Assembly's been automated. So assembly becomes very consistent quality because you don't have a bad day. A robot doesn't call in sick or get tired or is sleepy. The robot does the same work over and over and over, 24/7. The first one is built exactly the same as the last one. So the level of reliability goes up, the consistency goes up, and it's fascinating watching this industry evolve like it has. I think given 10 years from now, nobody's going to be using mechanical drive NASs. Well, I don't mean literally nobody, but I think these are going to be so much more attractive in size, noise, capacity. Capacity of these drives is going up, the price is going down. Even today, to set this up with a Synology with equivalent drives would likely cost me more than what this cost me. So what did it cost me? Bought this at Newegg for $450. I've got a link to Amazon. Amazon now has them. At the time when I ordered it, they did not. But Amazon wanted $479. And you can shop around. I don't know if that's a sale price I got it at or if that's just a regular discount. I don't know. These Team Group NAS, these Team Group 4 terabyte NVMe drives, they were $199. Now they're like $197, 4 terabytes. Let me show you the website. Let me show you the Amazon page rather for these devices so you guys can see. I have links in the video notes below the video, of course. So here is the Asustor Flashstor 6. This is a 6 bay. They also make a 12 bay. The only difference is when you open it up, they look the same on the outside. But when you open up the 12 bay one, it's got 6 additional ports on its other side. And if we scroll through here, we can see there's the top of the unit. There's the back. We've got two 2.5 gig ports. We've got some USB ports. We've got the Kensington lock. We've got an SPDIF audio output. So if you wanted this to be a media server and you've got some high-end audio, you want to run it straight out to your stereo or to your amplifier, you can run it straight out of this device. This would make an awesome Plex server, as well as our HDMI port. There's a reset switch there, and then our DC power jack. And it kind of looks a little bit like a way station, doesn't it? There's a USB port up front. So if you want to plug a flash drive in and put that on your network, it's that easy to add that. And then that's what it looks like. Well, I don't know what that is, but it's got a 4-core, 2 gigahertz processor. And then if you look at the Team Group NAS device, you'll see that there's no price. And this frustrates me. I don't know why Amazon's doing this. So you're like, gee, Carey, it looks like it's sold out. No, it's not sold out. It says see all buying options right here. You have to click that. And right up at the top, $197.99, free delivery, and it must ship from Amazon, but I don't know why it doesn't say Amazon Prime. But there it is. I don't know why it's not on the default, but everybody else is way more money than that. So don't think that they're sold out simply because the price isn't being shown here. It's very strange. But you do have to click see all buying options, and it does ship via, as far as I can tell, it's coming from Amazon with all the same Amazon peace of mind that comes with purchasing from them. They also have some great prices on their 2 terabyte drive, $79.99. These are all Gen 3 5-year warranty. And the 1 terabyte drives, are you sitting down to $44.49, 5-year warranty. So, I mean, you know, if you wanted to, you could put 6 1 terabyte drives in there, and that'll give you 5 terabytes of storage that you can use over your network. So it's nothing to shake a stick at. Also, I did want to mention that this unit has 2 RAM slots. It takes SODIMM RAM, and it's got 4 gigs, which is 1 stick of 4 gigs installed. And we can upgrade that, but the only reason we'd want to upgrade the RAM is if we want to run containers on it or virtual machines on it. That's going to consume a lot of memory. If we're just using it as a file share, then there's no benefit in upgrading the amount of RAM. And of course, just using it as a file share is barely scratching the surface of what this is capable of. But for me personally, I need it for hosting my video files. And when I render these out in 4K, they're between 40 and 60 gigs for a 3-hour live video being rendered out in 4K. So it doesn't take long for me to fill up a lot of space. So these links are available in the video notes below the video. Let me go back over to camera 1. And we're going to get ready to do some unboxing here, but let me say hello first. And camera girl, are you ready? All right, let's get close-up camera set up. And in the meantime, while she's doing that, I'll say hello to all my friends in chat. There's Flipper Flop and Gil Garcia, Sarge Tech, Doman 2000 and Dave E, Garfield Rupe and Mark Baggett, Jason Gillespie, Michael Mancini, Gabriel Granados, Positive Gene, Leo Saunders, Rock Legends, David Graham and Johnny Weld, Frank Jimmy, Dr. Bill, Joshua Gwennon, Thomas Backenstow, Agyan Jakovjevic, something like that. I butchered that name, I'm sure. John Spirazic says hello. There's Dwayne Blackwelder, Gary Tatum, Alvin Shaver, Donnie Seeger, Robert McCord Magumi. Did I say Matthew Burden? William Dawson, Mark Leibowitz, David Tracy and Arnold Schmidt, as well as Terrell Cockerim, Marlena DG in the chat. You're not in the chat now. Phil Hoffman, CeeLo Screen, Ben Laird, joining us from Scotland, Avery Ramstorff, Frankie B and Martin Hogg, as well as Scott, Jim KJ3N, Magda99 UK, Darren Gilholm, Patrick Rousseau, Oystein all the way out there in Norway, Zvi Manor, Sue Cool 98 Lawrence, Dan Nilsson, and Rakshit Patel. All right, guys. Hello. Thank you for hanging out with me on this 3-day weekend. Today is Sunday, as I mentioned, so we have another day off tomorrow here in the U.S. to celebrate Memorial Day, and our thanks go out to all the service members and people in public service who this holiday is really for. And you ready over there with the close-up so we can do some unboxing? Again, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. I really want to show the true experience of the unboxing and me figuring out how do I access the interface. So we're going to figure that out together. All right, let's go to the close-up camera. Come on over. So you see I've got my 6 brand new drives. None of these have been opened before. And there's our Asustor in its box. and all of the information about it there. Okay, let's unbox it. Uh-oh, there's nothing in here. It's like, it's a nice little bag. Let's see. Look at that. Isn't that nice packaging? This is about the same size as my router. And then if you go back over here, I'm going to take this out. And we've got two Ethernet cables. We have, it's just like a little cable tie, I guess. We've got a quick installation guide here. Then I'm guessing a power adapter is in here. Oh, good. It uses a standard PC power cable, so I don't have to run that. And then there's our power adapter. I don't know what our wattage is on this, but doesn't seem to say Asus on it, so I'll have to get my label maker out and make sure that I write Asus on this. Do me a favor, tap. Never mind, it's focused. All right. Yeah. Okay, so that's all we need from the box. I don't need that. So what I'm going to do to test this, and I'm going to do this after the video, is I'm going to take everything off my Synology and just copy and paste over the network. And it's got a lot of stuff. It's probably going to have to run for 5 or 6 hours to get everything copied over. And then I'm going to set the Synology aside and not use it so I can get some hands-on experience with the Asustor. I've got to force myself to live with it. And then we'll do a follow-up video and I'll let you know how things are going with that. But it all starts here with the unboxing and configuration. And again, if it was Synology, I wouldn't have the anxiety I've got. This is, keep this back here, but this is my Synology. And this is what I use here. And I just hook it up when I'm doing videos, rendering out videos. There's my 2 drives. So by comparison, which way does this go? In here, we've got 2 14 terabyte drives. Now, if you price together this 2-drive NAS with the 2 hard drives, I do believe it's going to come out to be the same price for this NAS with 20 terabytes with 24 terabytes worth of storage. The way I've got this configured, this is in a RAID 1 mode, so there's 2 identical 14 terabyte drives, and it constantly mirrors each other. So essentially, this is just 14 terabytes in total capacity, and I have a hot spare 14 terabyte drive. So if one of these 2 drives should fail, the other one takes over, and there's no data loss, there's no interruption whatsoever. I get a notification that I've got a drive problem. And then, of course, if I keep running it off one drive and I keep procrastinating replacing the bad drive, if I wait too long and the one good drive remaining dies, I've lost everything that I haven't backed up off externally from the NAS. So this is what I use personally, and I think it's been wonderfully meeting my needs. But one of the complaints, one of the customers I have that recently upgraded their Synology, we went from a 4-drive to a 2-drive because he needs the storage, but you can get that storage now with bigger capacity drives. You don't need to have 4 bays anymore unless you need, 88 terabytes of storage. Most people don't. So I think he had 4 terabyte drives. So that was 16 terabytes, but you lose one in the RAID 5, so it leaves him with 12. Now we get him a smaller Synology with bigger storage drives, 20 terabytes each. So he goes from 12 terabytes to 20, and we put it in a RAID 1, so the other 20 is just kind of hidden as an emergency failover. He loves it. The only problem is, because it's a spinning drive, it wants to go to sleep after a certain amount of inactivity. And then when you go to wake it up, he feels like these new Synologies take longer to wake up than his old Synology did, and I don't know why. So what we did is, and I've experienced the same thing, by the way. If this sits, powered on after a certain amount of time, it goes to sleep. And then when I go to access it from my laptop wirelessly in the other room, I'm not getting a response, and I think something's wrong. And it takes a good 30 to 50 seconds, upwards of a minute, for this to spin back up and get back on the network again. I'm hoping we don't have that problem with the Asustor, because even if it sleeps, it should wake up instantly. We don't have to wait for everything to spin up again. And again, it's only 30 seconds, but if you're used to, you know, that instantaneous, you want to be able to leave it on. And he did reach out to me and say, hey, can you do something about this? And I was like, really, is 30 seconds that big of a deal? So he's like, well, it's just, it would be nice. You know, I could live with it if I had to, but if you can fix it, I'd prefer you fixed it. And okay. So all we ended up doing was extending how long it waits before it goes to sleep. So apparently, you know, it was set to go to sleep after 15 minutes, and he'd come back after 17 minutes and then have to wait. He kept doing that over and over, and it was driving him crazy. So we set it to like 3 hours before it goes to sleep. So if it's not being used for 3 hours, but you can make those adjustments in the Synology. And as for why it's taking longer to wake up, I have no idea what's going on with that, but I'm definitely experiencing that. And I'm hopeful that this should be instantaneously waking up. So with that, here's our drives. David Graham contributes $2, wants to know, will it tell you when a drive goes bad? I'm not aware of a NAS that does not do that. All NASs, to the best of my knowledge, will tell you when a drive goes bad if you configure it in the software how you want to be notified. It could send emails. It may even be able to send text messages as well. So we'll take a look at that when we get into the firmware of it. So let's get this set up here. Let's see what we've got. So here on the front, we've got a little protective tape to keep it from getting scratched. And more tape. Everything else looks pretty good. Now, underneath this fan is where our 6 NVMe slots are. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. Anything else? And it does show on the bottom open or close. So this has to slide out. So that line aligns with this line. That means it's in the open state. Let's take a look at what's in here. Because obviously we have to put drives in it. I need a wider Phillips, apparently a Phillips number 2, which I wasn't expecting. I thought something this small would require a smaller driver. There's the screws, they're very small, so be conscientious of where you place them so you don't have trouble finding them. They would be very difficult to replace outside of contacting ASUS. If they're not a normal screw you go to the hardware store and buy. So with those 4 screws removed, slide just like that. Now it's in the open position, close enough. Then we lift it up. Oh, look at this. That is a USB port, and that is our 4-pin fan cable. So when we plug this in, and the reason why it slides out this way is so that you can slide into that USB slot right there to power the fan. There's also a CMOS battery right down there. And does the top come off? Oh no. Kind of curious what's over here on this side. Well, obviously it's got to be a way to get in there to upgrade the RAM. I'm sure it's probably simple. Wonder if there's screws underneath the feet. Not sure yet. And I could read the directions, but I don't want to. I think there's probably some screws I'm missing. Ah, here they are. There's a screw right here. See a screw here and here. See these two? And probably on the other side. I don't see any screws on the other side. There's a power button right here. I didn't even think about that. There was no power button. That's really well hidden. All right, let's get these other two screws out. All appear to be the same screw, thank goodness. Oh, look at that. There's our single RAM module, but you can see we could put more RAM in there if we want to. That's pretty much the only reason you'd want to get into this side of it. And then back over to this side, we can start propagating our 6 NVMe drives, and it looks like no screws are needed. Let's find out. So I will start with number uno. I can figure out how to get the box open. I guess what I want to do. So I'll get my razor blade. There you go. If you order one of these Team Group NVMe drives, there's no documentation. It's just, this is all you're going to get. And then just start over here, I guess. Plug one in here. Slide it down. Slide it down, or do I have to turn this? Does it turn? Not sure. Bend it back, maybe? Yep, you just bend it back and it locks in place. 1 down, 5 to go. Now, one of the things I like about the Synology NAS is that I don't have to use a screwdriver to get to the drives. I can completely replace a failed drive without any tools. With this, you have to have a screwdriver to remove the 4 screws holding the fan in, but I'm not quite sure how often these would fail. I've never used an NVMe drive in this scenario. There are Synology devices that will accept an NVMe drive, but just as a cache. And since I'm got a 1 gig network, it doesn't really benefit me to utilize that. But they're not used as storage. They're just used as a cache for faster access to the storage. It's so cool.
That's neat.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I don't like having open blades. You'll see I keep closing it every time. There's 2 reasons for that. One is my OCD, and the other is just safety. I've injured myself more than once by accidentally knocking in my hand into an open blade. Do they make NVMe NAS specific storage drives? Not that I'm aware of. If anybody in the chat knows otherwise, please post a link. I don't know if perhaps they have like NVMe drives designed for servers, but since this is a consumer NAS, really, it makes sense that it would just use regular NVMe drives. But if there is such a thing as a NAS SSD, it would probably be more ideal to use it. I've never heard of such a thing. Barry says option 2 is open the blade once, slice open all the boxes. I could do that. I'm a one thing at a time kind of guy though. So you do you, and I'll do me. We're at the last drive, so there we go. That's my workflow, man. That's how I work. So there is the 6th 4 terabyte drive, and all good to go. So with that, it looks like we can put the cover back on it. Which way did this go? Goes like this, I think, something like this. Yeah, just like that. And I'll put those 2 screws back in. So setup so far, piece of cake. Terrell Cochran mentions NVMe server drives are in a 2.5-inch enclosure with the U.2 interface. That is correct. Now that you mention it, I knew that. Slide that back on. And we'll put these screws back in. Close that up. Yes, those NVMe slots are numbered. You should be able to rewind the video and see a closer view of that with the close-up camera. So if it tells you that you have drive 3 failed, you'll have to know which one is drive 3. Or if it says drive 6 has failed, you don't know which end is 6 if it wasn't labeled. So they are numbered for that very reason. I've never seen a NAS that did not have numbered drive bays of mechanical drive or solid-state drive now. And with that, we can give it some power, and I got to plug it into the network. So I'm going to step around, and let's see, where's my network cable? Start with a network cable, and we'll plug that in back here. Either of these, I'll plug it into the one labeled number 1. And I need to give this power here. So I'll just let this come down to the floor. I know my power cable's on the floor here somewhere. Ah, here it is. Plug that in. And that should be it, just those 2 cables. I am curious though, if we plug the HDMI in, if we can get directly to the NAS with a keyboard and mouse plugged into the USB. So let's hook it up like a mini PC, because I'm kind of curious if I can connect to it directly like a mini PC. So there's my keyboard and my mouse. Plug this keyboard dongle right back here. So hit this power button. That light comes on. You get a couple indicator lights up top. I can vaguely hear the fan running. Set it that way. And then let's see if we go to, let's go to the HDMI input, see if we're getting anything. So far, I've got a black screen. I'm not sure what that means. You can go ahead and turn off the close-up camera. Thank you, camera girl. Oh, it just beeped. And tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to I'm going to go back to camera 1 just so you don't get too confused with whether or not we've lost video. And let's see, I want that to be that way, and this one we'll put this way. Well, that's not too promising. HDMI out. So I'm not getting the no signal from the capture card. So I'm not quite sure if what's happening with this. Does our video output work? Plug it. Okay, there's our rainbow. Plug it back in. So it knows it's plugged into an HDMI. I have a blinking cursor. Oh, I don't see that. Let me go full screen over here. Full screen. I'm looking at it full screen. I don't see a blinking cursor. So I don't know, like when you first take a Synology and you hook it up, you've got to give it a minute to install the operating system. It kind of takes it from firmware and puts it onto the drives. And I don't know if that's what's happening, but I would like to see something on the screen to indicate it. Gary says they do see the blinking cursor in the upper left. So does that indicate something is happening? I'm not sure. The red light on this now goes, instead of just the power button being lit up, and it has little wings that have lit up to each side. And then there's no other lights on here, and I'm not getting any video. So I'm not sure, but if I have to, I'll just hook up one of the mini PCs, and the streamer is on a different network, so I'm never going to be able to see this through the streamer. So we'll have to hook up a mini PC to do that. So while that's running, I guess I can get started with that by typing something. I can hit enter. Nothing's happening. Let's see if I take out the USB dongle. No, I don't know what it's doing. Must have an HDMI port for some reason. It may be just for outputting video files as a Plex server. I don't know. I assumed I'd be able to just boot right up to it, but this is why we do these live and we figure it out together. Could it be waiting for the network? I mean, it should have already been attached to the network. Should we turn it off and back on again? I don't know why we should. I don't know if it's doing some setup, but if I hold, let's see, if I push the power button in and let it go, it's not responding. If I hold the power button in, there, I got a beep, but it's still on. It doesn't show me that it's, there it goes. So it just now turned off. I'm going to turn it back on, and let's see if we get anything on the screen at all. Oh, we got something this time. Goes to black. Let it sit there for a minute. Hey, got a long beep. That should mean it's ready. So if that's the case, I'm going to have to hook up a mini PC to this. So let's just do that. So you know what? I've got a mini PC right here we can use. It's one of these little HP giveaways right here. And how power does this use? Down here. I think I do. Let's see, HP power cable. Ah, yes. Just have to look at my nest of cables. Here's the other end of it, right here. Okay, so let's plug power. And it's not an HDMI, that's DisplayPort. So I'll grab the keyboard and mouse and we'll plug that in over here as well. And then it looks like I'm going to have to run another network cable from the router. Yeah, I need an HDMI DisplayPort adapter. Got one of those in here somewhere. Here we no. 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 Come on, Carey. What's the last cable? So there's my DisplayPort to HDMI adapter here. So we will plug that into this DisplayPort, and then we'll grab the HDMI cable from here and plug it in over here. And then I need a network cable. I was just checking to see if I could cheat by stealing a network cable, but I'm going to have to go grab a cable and run it. But that's just going to be run across the floor. It'll just take me a second. Let's see, how many feet will I need? More than 5 feet. There's a 14-foot. I don't know if 14 feet's enough. You know what? I've got a long cable right here. I'll just use this white one so that way I'll know it from all the other cables that are black. So we'll plug this end of the cable in right here, and we'll run this over to our router. Now I could put it on the Wi-Fi. The reason I don't want to do that is it means I have to clear it out before I give that computer away. So I'm trying to leave it as pristine as possible so I don't have to reconfigure it again. Okay, and that was no big deal anyway. It's easier for me to pull the cable than it is to clear out the Wi-Fi code, but that's just me. It might be easier for you to clear out the Wi-Fi code, to each their own. I'm going to power this on now, and we'll go over to our HDMI input once again. We'll see that this boots like it should. There we go. Danny says Amazon does sell a NAS NVMe solid-state drive. It's a Western Digital Red SN700 4 terabyte for NAS devices. Hey, learn something new every day. Good to know. Good to know. I'm not quite sure if there's going to be a reliability difference between the two. I'm not sure. And I'm not going to worry about doing updates and stuff. This should be pretty updated. Now, how do I find the NAS? So there's a couple of different things that we can do to resolve finding the NAS, whether we want to ping randomly or there might be a website we can go to. I'm trying to avoid reading the directions. I want this to be common sense and intuitive. I enjoy figuring things out. Sometimes on the bottom of the unit, they might put a website like they do on the bottom of a router, but I don't see that here. So we're going to go to the Asus website. Let's see, I'll go full screen because we can do everything on this mini PC so you can follow along with me. And I think I should just go ahead and get rid of camera 1 because I'm afraid I'm going to be blocking vital information on the screen. So let's do that. Let's go there. Let's do this. Okay. So I'll just bring up the browser. There's our internet. And we want the, let's say, Flashstor software. Let's just type that in. And apparently, Type in the word Asus to be more specific, I guess. How to install the Android app. What's that? That's FlashStor. I don't know what that is. FlashStor 12 Pro. Asustor.com is a website. Look at that. So this is the same unit, just that it has 12 bays instead of 6. Downloads. Actually, let's go to products and let's do the FlashStor 6, because that's what we have. Sure, the downloads are going to be the same. Let's go to downloads. Okay. ADM is the operating system. Desktop app, backup application. Control Center can help you find and configure your NAS. So that's what we want the Asus Command Center for Windows. So we're going to download that. Seems like a pretty small file. Synology has something similar. The Synology Assistant is what they call it. Let's get this installed here on the mini PC. That'll help us locate it. And then once we locate it, we should be able to see everything through the browser, just like a website, just like every other NAS. Oh, it's downloading some more. So I thought that download seemed awfully light. So we'll let that install, and I'll just save this page in case we need to come back here. Close that out just to keep the screen a little cleaner, so we're all looking at the same thing here. Sarge Tech said the Western Digital NAS SSD is $400, and we would need 6 of them. That would cost twice as much money as what we've used. So since we're just getting familiar with the device, I'm not going to go all on, you know what I mean? Like this is, I think, should be good enough. And I don't see anything that says NAS SSDs are required. This I obviously want to allow access to through the firewall. No Asustor NAS was found on the local network. Scan. There, I found it that time. So apparently it was trying to look before I gave it the firewall permissions. So we'll give it a double click, maybe. Is that how I connect to it? Right click? No? How do I? Oh, there's our IP address that got assigned. Welcome to Asustor Data Master. Oh, that's where ADM comes from. Model, IP address, ADM version. Initialization means your NAS will prepare and erase all of the drives you've installed. Please back up any data. Well, these are all brand new drives. That doesn't affect us. NAS devices with M.2 slots. Please first shut down your NAS, install your SSDs, and turn your NAS back on. We've already done that. Update ADM. An update is available. Okay, let's grab the update. So far, I'm digging this. I like that it's checking for updates before it's initializing, so it doesn't end up having to go back and potentially have to reinitialize. The unit is dead silent. And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and put camera 1 back up. So far, everything's pretty familiar as far as setting up a NAS. This flows like I would expect it to. There's nothing unique about this setup so far. This is my first time with an Asus NAS product. So, you know, my experience has been based on Seagate Black Armors and Synologies. And I'm just hopeful that it follows through familiar patterns and processes. So far, so good. Kevin Smith wants to know, does a NAS normally have a video output? I've never seen a NAS with a video output before. David Graham says, if Carey likes this, I might buy it. I don't know that I can tell you if I like it or not by just going through and familiarizing myself with it. I'm going to have to be using it on a regular basis My plan is when the show is over, I'm going to move this over to the router, and I'm going to set the router on top of it, I think, because I don't have a lot of room over there. And then I'll just run a real short patch cable. All I need is like a 6-inch cable to go from the router, back of the router to the back of the NAS. I've got that Wi-Fi 7 router from TP-Link coming, and that'll have 2.5 gig ports on it. So I might hook it into the 2.5 gig port. And the streaming computer back here has a 2.5 gig port. But I will say the streaming computer's on a different network. So I don't think there's going to be any benefit for me because all the other computers are Wi-Fi, and that 2.5 gig port really isn't going to benefit me. I'm going to take everything off of my Synology NAS, and I'm going to copy it over the network onto the Asustor NAS. Oh, just beeped. And then I'm going to just put the Synology NAS in a closet, and I'm going to force myself to use nothing but the Asustor. And then after a while of me just using it the way I normally use a NAS, I'll be able to report back whether or not I like it or I don't like it, or maybe it's a mixture of both. Maybe there's some things I like, some things I don't like. I don't know yet. Do I have a NAS over at Studio A? I do. It's the exact same Synology that I showed you, only that one has two 12 terabyte drives. And those drives have never been replaced ever since I put that Synology NAS in with the two Iron Wolf 12 terabyte drives in it. I don't know how many years it's been. And, oh, I think it's telling us it's ready. And I've never had a drive failure with it, and I'm going to let it go till the drive fails, quite frankly. But I wouldn't do that for my clients. My clients will get new drives every 5 years. When it comes to these SSDs, though, I don't know that replacing them every 5 years would even be necessary. Let's go turn camera 1 back off again. See what it says. Looks like an end user license agreement. Yeah. I read and agree to ADM terms and conditions, like I had a choice. System initialization. To begin, you'll need to initialize your NAS. Initialization is easy and covers several settings and features, including appearance, time and date, security, storage volume settings, registration, and app installation. All of these settings can be changed after installation. What, the light appearance or the dark appearance? Let's go with the dark. No, let's go with the light. One-click setup. Use optimized settings in accordance with your computer settings and installed hard drives. Recommended. Okay. All right, so we're just going to hit next here. We're not making any changes. Enter the server name. So let's call this Flashstor 6. I gotta have an account name. Let's call it and then it wants me to put a password in. This is my password. This is my password. Now, I'm not going to keep it that way, but just we're doing a live show here. I'm not going to use my real password, which describes your data storage requirement. Balanced. Balanced what? Maximum capacity. Oh, it's referring to how we want to configure that, what RAID away. So it's giving us an idea that so balanced is going to leave us 18.61 terabytes. Superior data protection is only going to leave us 15 terabytes. Maximum capacity gives us 22.33. So maximum capacity suggests that we're in a RAID. Oh, it says right here, RAID 0. I don't want to do that because one drive failure, you lose everything. Superior data protection allows probably 2 drives that can fail. That's a RAID 6. So I think balanced is really the best setup for me personally. And that's probably about 20 terabytes. It's just they're doing the math differently. Now it says all the data, when we do this, the data on these drives is going to be wiped out. These are brand new drives that don't even have partitions. So obviously, if you're going to be setting up a new RAID array, whatever drives you put in there have to be erased to be initialized into the RAID array. I mean, you'd think that that was obvious, but there's your disclaimer, just in case you didn't understand what initialization means. And save password, nah. So it's giving us progress report here. I love that. Let's see how long this takes. Now, on a typical NAS, it can take 24 hours to completely format and initialize a new array. Could take longer depending on the size of the array. And with the Seagate Black Armor, you could not use the device until that process was done. But on the Synologies, that process multitasks. So it'll run that initialization in the background and allow you to continue configuring and using the NAS. Oh, this is moving quick. This is all happening live and in real time. Wayne says you have an option to select Btrfs file system. You know, I didn't see anything about the file system, so I wasn't paying attention. This is my first product, and I do not have a store. Let's register this later. I don't want to do this now. Next. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, this tells you they pay attention to your privacy. Great. Before you begin, use a strong password. Yeah. Make regular backups. This is all stuff you guys should all know. And then these are the ports. That's fine. Do those things quick. Welcome to the Asustor Data Master. This guide will introduce ADM's basic features to help you get started. Okay, let's see. Let's start it. Do multiple people use this NAS? No, I'm going to have everybody just use it. So in other words, I don't need individual accounts, just one essential guest account. So anybody on my local area network will be able to access it. Your files can be found in the ADM File Explorer. That's just like Synology. Drag and drop. Okay, next. I don't care about any of this. That's fine. Do you want to learn more about shared folders? No. Do you want to access files from? Yes, I do. Yeah, okay, next. Do you need to access from outside of the network? No, I don't want to access this outside. Do you want to receive notifications? Yes, I do. Preferences for notifications can be customized. Next, you can do email. Add a sender's email address first. Where? Now let's set up email notification, okay? I'm stuck. What am I missing? Clicking email, nothing's happening. Oh, do I just start typing the email? No, that's not working. Let's set up email notification. Add the sender's email first. Oh, I click add. Service provider will be Google. Subject, we can modify all this, that's fine. I'm gonna not do this right now, but that's where you would set that up. So let's go back, say no. There's some sort of protection here, ADM Defender. After enabling this, I've been blocked too many unsuccessful. Yeah, I like that. Let's do that. Oh, I have to click apply. Wow. Okay. You've now set up your NAS. For further help, please refer to online help or reopen this quick guide for a refresher. Thank you for using Asustor. Okay, we're up and running. Now, in theory, what do I have? One big share? I don't even know. What is the address? 192.168.1.34. So let's type in here / / 192.168.1.4. And I should be able to just type in the word guest. No password. Okay, we'll use guest as password then. It's requiring credentials. I didn't want it to require credentials. Access control. Why don't we start there? Guest account is inactive. Well, you know, Synology does the same thing here. So let's see what we can do to activate. Edit this. Uncheck disable the account. That's exactly the same as Synology. Now, what happens if I go to 192, oops, // 192, 168.1.34. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. And I don't want all these folders. I don't want web and I don't want home. All I want is public. And right here, I can take this and map a drive letter to this and make my life so much easier. If I go to the yellow folder here and go to home, is it home? Is it share? It's home. Okay. Let's do it this way. Let me close this. There's a lot of different ways to accomplish the same thing in Windows. So normally I would go to the My Computer icon. I'd go to Computer. I'd go to Map a Network Drive. We should be able to browse for it. See if it finds it on the network. I might not have Discovery turned on. So what I'll do is I'll type in / 192.168.1.34 / public and enter. Okay, so now what I've done, I've given myself a Z drive. I went all the way to the opposite end of the alphabet because I don't want any flash drives that I plug in to skip drive letters. So when I plug flash drives in, that goes, goes to D, E, F. It'll be a long time before I run into a drive letter collision of hitting Z. So I always map a drive letter to Z or X or Y somewhere down at the bottom of the alphabet. Then I just double click it and I'm in there. Now, what file system did we set this up with? I don't even know. I don't recall where it said. It says it's NTFS. That doesn't sound right. That's kind of weird. Let me go back into the software here. I mean, at this point, the NAS is ready for me to start using. I don't need to do any other setup for my needs, but I would get rid of the other two folders. And maybe under File Explorer, I can delete those shares because I see the 3 shares here. Wonder if there's a way to remove these. I mean, it's fine. If they have to be there, I can just ignore them. But I'd like to remove them. The folder. That's creating a folder. I don't want to do. Let's go back to the configuration page. Is that snapshot? No, no, nope. Nope. Storage manager. Also what it's called in Synology. Volume 1. Healthy. Doesn't tell us the format of the volume. It tells us here. Synchronizing. So it's ext4. I really don't want to use ext4. I want to use Btrfs. Drive information. Use this with our config. So, So I suppose that may be something in the auto setup. Maybe I overlooked it and wasn't paying close enough attention. So let's go ahead and remove this. Let's do the advanced setup. Please select, we want RAID 5. Next. We're going to do all these drives in the RAID 5. Next. Not going to set up a spare because that's inherent in RAID 5. And then there's Btrfs. That's what I want. Next. We've got fault tolerance of 1. That means we can have one failure and it won't impact us at all. It'll still keep running no differently. And we'll configure it to send notifications to tell us, please enter the password. This is my password. So there, it'll delete that volume and recreate it with Btrfs. You definitely want to get this done out of the way before you start using it. Otherwise, you back everything off of it, back up everything off of it, reset it, and copy everything back over. This is definitely something you want right out of the gate. Taking a little while to delete that volume. Oh, got a little beep. It shouldn't change our share. So the map drive letter should still point to the same thing. We shouldn't have to redo that. Okay, that's at 100%. Guess I click OK. And now it's verifying that. Perfect. That's what I want to see. So now if I go back to this PC, there's our share. So again, I didn't have to change anything there. Wonder if it still thinks it's NTFS. It does. That is weird. Okay, that's fine though. That's what I wanted. Just want one giant share. I mapped the drive letter from the main laptop in the other room over the Wi-Fi to this unit. And we want to make sure we set a static IP address, or we have to point it using using the device name. I prefer to just, I'm old school that way. I like to use a static IP address, and I never have to worry about what is it now? I want to say NetBIOS. It's not NetBIOS. What is it called now? Camera girl? When you're looking on the network discovery, you know, if I were to point this, if I was going to point the share by its name instead of by its IP address, what's that called? DNS. Thank you. Jeez, I'm getting old. Gates contributes $5.50 Canadian and says hello from Niagara Falls. Thank you, Gates. Taco said that I have terabytes I would love to share, yet no one to share with. Aw. Dwayne Blackwelder said the setup is very user-friendly. Agreed. Agreed. So let's see. We can go back over to camera 1. There I am. Do me a favor. On that laptop, will you go to this NAS and copy some of those 4K videos from YouTube onto this new NAS? And it's in the videos subdirectory of that laptop. Also, go into the network, used to call it network neighborhood, and see if the NAS shows up as a network device. Because I'm not seeing it over here, but I might have to turn a setting on for that. What do you mainly use your NAS for? Mainly use the NAS for the video files, because if YouTube decides to kill my channel or, you know, something happens, I want a copy of all of my files, at least of fairly recent videos. And in a perfect world, I keep all my videos if I can have enough storage for it. Although a lot of the old videos don't really have much purpose these days in being very helpful, because all that technology from 15 years ago we don't use anymore. It's nice to have for archival purposes, historical context. And those files will take up a lot of space. Lately, I've been rendering out all of the mini PC reviews that I do live at 1080, and I'm upscaling them to 4K. And it takes about 3 or 4 hours to upscale most of my full-length live videos. And that ends up being 40 to 60 gigabytes per video. So I'm curious, moving one of those big, 40 plus gigabyte files over the Wi-Fi, our bottleneck is going to be the Wi-Fi. And I don't think that she's going to experience more than 80 megabytes per second over the network. I think this isn't going to run any faster than the Synology, because the bottleneck is my network. I'd have to go 2.5 gig, and that would have to be all wired. And that's inconvenient for me. So granted, I could, if it takes me 3 minutes to copy one of these files over, I could cut that to under 1.5 minutes, but I don't care. And the reason I don't care is when that laptop is rendering out one of my video files in 4K and it's going to take 3+ hours to do, I don't have to wait for it. All I do is minimize PowerDirector, Cyberlink, and I can go watch YouTube videos. I can continue to use my laptop. So what do I care if it's whatever amount of time it takes? I don't care. And then when it's done and I want to copy the file, I just copy and paste over to the Z drive. And if it's, say I want to copy 600 gigs, say I've got 10 video 4K files I want to copy over 600 gigs, it's going to take 20 or 30 minutes. What do I care? Copy, paste, and then minimize the progress and go about continuing to use the laptop. I'm not sitting there with bated breath waiting for it to finish. It'll finish when it'll finish. In fact, I'll probably get so distracted in whatever project I'm working on, could even be just watching another YouTube video. What are you doing? Looking for the IP address? It's not showing up? No. Okay, so then it means it's probably a setting on here I have to change. It's 192.168.1.34. It's the public folder. Let me take a quick look here to see if network discovery is turned on. Terrell says, Carey, I think this will do SMB multi-channel. I think you're right, although I don't know that I have any use for that. But I do believe that's correct. There are 2 other YouTube channels that I like to watch that have done reviews on this. One is called NASCompares, and the other is ServeTheHome. Patrick over at ServeTheHome is the first one I saw doing this, showing off this NAS. And after I received the NAS, then I was looking to see if there's any other information.
I gotta switch network.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. The laptop, there's 2 Wi-Fis here, so yeah, she's got to be on the same network, or I have to allow external access in, and I don't want to do that. What was I talking about? So Patrick over at ServeTheHome was the first video I saw, and he does the 6 bay and the 12 bay. And then NASCompares, this gentleman in the UK, also does a review that talks about stuff Patrick didn't talk about. Now I'm here to fill in the gaps that neither one of them talked about, like showing off this entire setup, and there's going to be some overlap there, but also showing it in real time so you get an idea of exactly what's involved. It's really pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and very, very similar to what I'm already familiar with Synology, and I've never looked at any documentation yet, so we're good. That's what I want to see. I want it to be intuitive. I don't want to have to go back to the directions. I don't want to have to play a video game and do a walkthrough to figure out how to get past a level. That defeats the point of playing the game. And to me, this is the game I play. This is my challenge to myself to figure it out, and I enjoy it. So please don't take away my enjoyment. Don't tell me I should read the manual. That's like telling me I should cheat in the video game. That's what I'm hearing. I want to cheat. I want to win honestly. So keeps myself sharp that way. Keeps me interested. And I will, once I have everything satisfied to the way I want it, then I'll go look at the documentation and learn what other things this does, like multi-channel SMB and stuff that I don't necessarily need. But maybe it'll give me an idea of some other things it can do that I didn't know that I needed. So I do recommend eventually go ahead and read the documentation, because you might find out the device you've got can do something that would benefit you, and you just didn't know that thing was a thing. So ignorance is bliss, as they say. David Graham says, I always cheat. Yeah, it takes the fun out of it. Dawko says, NAS owners are just modern day DVD collectors who've run out of shelf space. Yeah, I suppose there's some truth to that. You could certainly store a lot of very large video files and Blu-ray files, not just DVDs. Absolutely. Yeah. But I will tell you that I've got a half dozen clients running NASs. And those clients are using their NASs for their business. It's not for home purposes. So when somebody has this in their home, I don't know why they have it in their home. You know, maybe they are collecting a bunch of movies. I have no idea. I know why, as a content creator, why I would benefit from it. And I know why my business clients benefit from it, right? They've got a number of employees. They all need to open files that they all work on at some point, but not at the same time, whether they're Quicken files, Word documents, Excel. Sometimes they get a DVD of video evidence, and they will rip that and put it on into the client file for the lawyer's office. The tax accountants keep everybody's tax forms and PDFs.
How many do you want me to copy?
There should be like 3 right at the top that I just did in the video directory. There should be like somewhere around 40 gigs a piece. Yeah, just grab those top 3 and then tell me what the total amount of data being copied is and what the average speed of the transfer. But keep in mind, it's over Wi-Fi. So I don't think this is going to benefit me in speed, because the bottleneck is the Wi-Fi. But this also, if it goes to sleep, it should wake up instantly. I shouldn't have to wait for drives to spin back up like I do on the Synology. And again, it's not that big of a deal, but it's nice when you click on something and it's instantly available. Carey needs to check the data hoarder subreddit one day. Yeah, I think that's a disease, just like any other kind of hoarding. Thomas Backenstow says, so this is a huge file server. What is the difference? Fair question, Thomas. So the difference, and I kind of glossed over that earlier, are in the App Store. So for example, we can set this up as a Flex server. We can set this up as a video surveillance server. So you can record with cameras. Like 2 of my clients have cameras around their building, and they go to a proprietary Ubiquiti video storage server. You wouldn't have to buy all that expensive stuff. You can use a NAS. So just like the Synology has an app store, or like your phone, the Google Play Store or the iOS App Store, so your phone can have all these apps and can do all these different things. The Asustor has its own online app store specifically for this operating system that can do backups automatically for you of your systems that are connected. It can do, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. You can run virtual machines on it. You could have this encode video files. In other words, take the load off of the laptop and have the video files encoded on this, which will take a lot longer, but it offloads it off of the laptop, freeing up the resources on the laptop. And this just is out of sight, out of mind, and it can take as long as it wants to, right? Oh my gosh, there's so much more you can do with this. I don't use any of those things. There's like a photo album app you can download, and you can put all your pictures in there and then have it configured so that it works as a photo album displayer, as well as you can set that up on your television so that you can, when your TV sits for too long, it'll load the pictures, just like the Asus, just like the Amazon Fire Stick TV can share the photos you have on your Amazon photo storage area. If you didn't know that was a thing, it's a thing. Let's take a look at the App Store and let's see what's in there. How about we do that? Because I'm having a hard time coming up with examples here, because I don't actually use any of that myself. How's it doing?
And I'm moving 71.6.
71.6 gig is being moved.
Yeah, it's moving at about 80.
So 80 megs per second is exactly what the Synology was doing. So that's our Wi-Fi limit. So that's fine. How long does it say it's going to take? 19 minutes? All right, well, we'll check on it. In the meantime, as I mentioned, that offloads some data off of that storage of the laptop, which is limited. Also, I can leave the files on the laptop and on the NAS, so if something happens to one or the other, I have a type of a backup anyway. And I'd rather spend 19 minutes copying the file than 10 hours recreating each file, because I'll never recreate those videos the same way. Of course, I could, in the case of these videos, go back to my YouTube channel, re-download the original file at 1080, and then re-render it at 4K and do it all over again, but that's still going to take 4 hours. The last I checked, that's still longer than 19 minutes. And that's just to do one of the 3 files she's copying over. So you could multiply that times 3, and that 19 minutes is basically 6 minutes per video. That's a big 3-hour 4K video. I'm very happy with that. This NAS device has the power to go much, much faster than that. We could easily bring that 19 minutes down with a wired 2.5 gig connection, probably down to about 6 minutes. It's not important to me. I'm not going to run a cable to my laptop. It doesn't make any sense for me to do that. But just know that it's configurable to how it would benefit you, right? So let's take a look. If I go full screen here, and we'll log back in. Well, we're still logged into the NAS. So let's see, how's that doing? Go over here. Yeah, it's starting to copy it. Getting there. Close this out. We should have, let's see, app control. There's a backup and restore, external devices, synchronization manager, storage manager, settings, services, file explorer, snapshot center. So I guess it's the app control. Oh, app central. It's too far away for me to see. Wow, this looks exactly like Synology. So we've got home/personal applications, business applications, professional design applications, live streaming. What does that do? Let's see what apps are under live streaming. Asustor Live, Stream's good. I don't know what these are. Asustor Portal and a TeamSpeak 3 server. Hey, that's cool. All right, let's see what is home and personal. Asustor Live, I don't know what it is. Data Sync Center, mini DLNA, so a little mini DLNA server. A remote center, streams good. Universal plug and play media server, sounds good, so that'll be like a jukebox, if you will. Photo gallery, be like a photo album. Looks good. Asus Portal, I imagine if we click on them, does it tell us any information about them? Don't know what these are, but I'm sure we can find out more about them. Business application, Clam antivirus, wow, that's still made. Data Sync Center, syslog server, and a cloud backup center. Oh, that's a neat feature. You can be your own cloud server. And then finally, professional design. We've got, there's a lot of overlap here. I'm seeing a lot of the same things. Only Office Docs and Nextcloud. So what is Asustor Live? What is that? I click on that and then I click OK. Does it tell us anything? Just have install. Thank you for using App Central. Okay, but doesn't tell me about the apps. Install. Installing apps, please do not turn off your NAS until installation is complete. So while she is copying files and I'm installing, so this is where the NAS really shines, is multiple people can utilize this NAS simultaneously without one interfering with the other. Here's a Plex media server. Oh, here's more stuff here. Look, we've got Docker. It's got a Docker engine, Portainer, There's the surveillance center I talked about. You can run a browser on it, surf the web from it. This is a media player, media server specifically for sound. The download center, if you want to offload your downloads onto the NAS instead of tying up your computer for files that could take a long time. We've got latest apps. So that was the top apps. There's latest apps. We have a lot of stuff in here. iRes player, Mattermost, Molotov TV, Minum server, whatever that is. Jellyfin is a media. This is all media stuff. There's a backup and replication. Navico transporter. That's security backup and synchronization. The NConnect and Nextcloud, all the Office docs. Own cloud server, own tone, Photo Prism. If you do install any of these apps, it's critical you keep them updated because, hey, looky here, SAB NZB. I know somebody who uses SAB NZB. Camera girl. And there's something called SAB NZB Plus. So you're using a dedicated desktop for SAB NZB. In theory, you wouldn't have to use that anymore. So why are you giving me that look?
The copy should finish in about 5 minutes. 1.34 does amp. That drive one.
So when you go to 192.168.1.34, you don't get the web login page? Oh, I think you have to hit colon 8000. That's why. It's port 8000. It's not the typical port. So 192.168.1.34 colon 8000. Yeah. Taiwan News. Tor server. There's a Tor server on here. Transmission. I don't know what that is. Vault Warden. Lots of different. That worked, right? Zen Photo. Asustor apps. Disney Plus. Docker engine. FM MPEG. Interesting. FTP Explorer, Geo IP database, Git utility. Huh. Does that say high drive backup? There's a lot of different backup programs. Iron Wolf Health Management. Well, I guess that would be useful if we were using Seagate Iron Wolf drives. There's a Java runtime engine. There's a mail. You can run a mail server on this. Maria database. I don't know what that is. Media cert. Mono framework and library. Net data. My media for Alexa. Nginx. Nginx. I don't know how you say that. For web hosting. You can do web hosting on this. We could make our own website. Photo Gallery 3. There's a Perl application language programming, PHP application programming, 7.3, 7.4, and 8, and my admin as well as PG. That's all PHP stuff, and more Portainer and Python. That's all programming stuff. There's a Radius server utility. We could set up our own Wi-Fi Radius server. Ruby Remote Center. Shell in a box. I don't know what that is. Subversion utility, surveillance center, take easy, universal plug and play media server, Tomcat web hosting, another web host, VirtualBox extension, VPN server. Yeah, oh my gosh, it goes on and on and on and on and on. And then on top of that, this is all the apps all just mashed together. You can go down to beta applications, and there's a bunch of applications that are still sort of being polished, and you can run them at your own risk. Yeah, it's so similar to Synology. I am surprised at just how close they are. That's pretty darn cool. Fred Zennerman said this is way above my pay grade and needs, but it's interesting to listen to. Drone Shot says you can run Kodi on it as well. So, you know, when you compare the price of this, so this was $450. And as I mentioned, Synology will do a lot of the same stuff. But the Synology unit, you know, if we're looking at a 4-drive Synology unit, you're looking at like $500. So just out of the box for the NAS, it can be more money. If I was going to run these applications, which I don't have any intention, then I would upgrade the RAM. So, you know, RAM is super cheap now. Don't know that you would really benefit from more than 16 gigs of RAM. You know, take that 4 gig module out, replace it with 2 8s. Being for the price for $50, you could probably pick up 2 16s, bump it to 32. I imagine you should be able to go to 64, but I just don't think a unit like this would benefit from it unless you're doing something unusual or you're just a super heavy, you know, you're using your NAS for all kinds of things, you're a super heavy NAS user. I don't know if there's a RAM limit, but if there is, it certainly would be limited to 64 at the most. I think most people would benefit if you're going to run any apps by at least having another 4 gig module in it, a minimum of 8. But if you're not running any of the apps like me, I'm just going to use it as a store, then that 4 gigs is perfectly fine. Yeah. So did that copy finish? Go full screen over here. So it's still copying those files. Let's go to folder. Let's go back to this PC. There's our mapped drive. Double click. Yeah. See the size of these are actually kind of small for these 4K files. If we go to, let's go back here, shows how much space we're using and how much is available, just like any other drive connected to your system. We're not even seeing any blue being used on here. Look at that, 20 terabytes of storage. That is so cool. I want to check the network settings in here to see if maybe I don't have network discovery on. The settings, network, default gateway, enable 6. I don't region. Oh, base.
Copy complete.
Awesome. Shows we're connected at 1 gigabit full duplex, so 1 gig in each direction, up and down. And let's see, configure. Proxy, I'm not using a proxy. See where discovery would be. It's clearly, I'm not seeing it under network, under general. Like I don't even see where it's asking for a workgroup name. Now that I think about it, it never asked me for a workgroup name. Where's that at? Z-Connect. Use this function, you need to sign into, oh, okay, so like Synology, you can create an account to access it like that. General, okay, maybe it's on this page. 48,000, auto log out after an hour. Oh, that's fine. Sign in page style. Okay. Video. Oh, that's cool. Does video conversion, media conversion on the fly. Media mode. That's all very, very cool. Still don't see where put in a workgroup name. I think that would be right here. Regional options. hardware. You can disable the beeps if you don't like those beeps. We can disable the LEDs if we don't want to see the LEDs. We can disable the rear reset button. I guess that's for security. Enable an infrared receiver. So I guess you can use this with a remote of some kind for something. I don't know. Then there's our notifications. We can do SMS and push notifications. Some kind of security, firewall, certificate manager, update, recycle bin, scheduler, the Asustor. So this IP address looks like it's the second network IP address. That's interesting. I don't use this when I live stream, so if people, are looking to cause me harm by attacking that IP address, have fun. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not worried about exposing that. Factory defaults and registration. Interesting. Very interesting. See if they charge for camera licenses. That's a fair question on the App Central. There is a video surveillance app. Categories. Oh, there's way more categories that popped up. Holy cow. I thought there was just the 4 categories, but I guess it was still loading stuff. Holy cow. There's a ticketing system in here. Wow. Virtualization, web hosting, social networking, security, office productivity, project management. Oh, this thing's loaded. Home automation. Look at that. These are the most popular apps people are downloading. Surveillance Center. Let's install it. This app requires the following shared folders. Ugh, really don't want to do that. You should be able to Google that. I have no idea. I don't want to set it up, quite honestly, because I'm not going to use it. Gates says you get a 4-cam license included. There you go. Thank you, Gates. Gates says if a Asustor portal is installed, you will have a different user interface available via HDMI. Interesting. Gates thinks what I'm looking for in the network is under Samba settings in the services app. Okay, that sounds like it could be a thing. With services, that's settings. This is services here. Enable SMB, the work group. Ah, there's our work group. Okay. Enable SMB multi-channel. So I guess that's if you want to run 2.5 gig out and double your bandwidth. Okay, that's cool. Enable local master browser. Maybe that's what I have to do. Maybe I've got to enable the master browser. You notice SMB1 is no longer supported. It's insecure. So if you're still, forcing SMB1 for some old hardware, you're really just shooting yourself in the foot by continuing to use that connected to the internet. It's disabled for your security. Enabling SMB signing will affect SMB transfer speeds. Okay. What happens if we browse the network now? Can we see it? Network discovery is turned off. Turn on network discovery. There we go. We've got a Samsung 43-inch TV. Oh, that's the monitor I'm looking at when I'm on. That's the very monitor I'm staring at. RAX 120, that's my router. And then back to this again. So I don't see anybody on the network for some reason. Close this out. Again. Let's log out. You know what? Let's restart this computer. It's got an update, and we'll see if the restart reinitializes and can see this, through browsing the network. In the meantime, let's see if there's any other questions here. Can you use just 2 NVMe drives for RAID 1? I imagine you should be able to do that, yes. You should not need all 6. I just wanted to fill all 6 to get the biggest capacity possible. Matthew Groff says, wow, maybe it's worth getting one of these for the home. Yeah, well. That's your call. That's why I try to show this, because I don't know if it's anything you could use or not. But by showing you everything it's capable of, it might just give you ideas. Duncan, he says the M.2's installing this thing with clips and not screws, and that's super easy. Agreed. Agreed. So we're just getting these updates installed on this mini PC here. Am I on a private or a public network? Oh, that's a good question, because obviously if it's on a public network, then the firewall is going to be engaged. And if it's on a private network, then being able to see everything should be much easier. I don't usually notice stuff like that unless it's a laptop, something like a tablet, something I'm moving around into somewhere where I would be on a public. Otherwise, these like mini PCs and such, they're not going outside of the building, so I don't even pay attention to that. Let's just get this out of the way so it'll leave me alone. There. Now I'm curious. We go to network. Will it see it? Still see the same 3 things. Trying to remember how we changed that, if it's on public or private. Sure. Okay. Network and sharing center. Says it's on public. Yeah, that could be a problem. Change that. Change advanced sharing. And turn that on. I want to change this. What's that? Change adapter settings. That's always have a hard time finding this setting. Back to settings, click properties under Ethernet, says Wintermute. Change adapter settings, property. Let's see where I'm selecting. Public or private, where did that go? Windows settings rather than control panel. I don't know why Microsoft made this so hard to find. Network and Sharing Center, Advanced Sharing Settings. No available networks. Yeah, I don't care. It's in here. It's right in front of my face, and I'm not seeing it. There we go. There it is. Thanks for the help, guys. Now, I don't think we have to save anything. We can just close that out. Now that we're on a private network, will it be seen? Hold on. Something just moved. Oh, now we're getting something. I think that's us. I think this is itself. Do I need to reset the or reboot the NAS maybe? Let's go back into the NAS. See what happens if I try to restore it. Admin. This is my password. System information. So up here on Synology is where the option to shut down or reboot is. Oh, I just found a bunch of stuff in here. Interesting. Restart. Okay, we'll restart it and see what it does. Sorry, I just realized my camera was covering up that top right corner where I was just clicking. But it's the same as Synology. Dwayne says, I did not click apply when I changed the network setting in the NAS. I didn't? Well, we'll restart it and we'll take another look. That would explain everything. Anyway, I'm liking this little device. I mean, it's dead quiet. I mean, capacity-wise, if we were to flatten out the 2-drive Synology, would it be about the same size? If it were laying flat, it would be a bit taller, the Synology would. But it's using mechanical drives, where it's just using the M.2 drives. So space-wise, it seems better. Noise-wise, it's better because you're not hearing the drives chatter. As far as like sleeping and waking up, I'm assuming that's going to be much more instantaneous. And then the question is it going to be as robust and as reliable as the Synology has proven to be for me? Time will tell. Okay, so we're back up and running here. It's got date and time at the corner. That's kind of cool. Let's go back and just see if it shows up here. Philips Hue. Oh, we're seeing a bunch of new stuff now. Flashstor 6 is right there. Yeah, that's everything. So looks good. We just needed to reboot. So whoever suggested that was correct. Needed a reboot. Can you see the NAS in the network neighborhood? Okay, I guess that final beep meant it was actually finished loading now. Let's close that out. Make sure we can still access it this way. Camera girl, can you tell me if you go into the network neighborhood? I don't know, they don't call it network neighborhood, but you know what I mean. Do you see the NAS as an option now, as a computer in the network? Well, no, you should see, like, it should say computer at the very top. And then it'll show you like the laptops, and then maybe even this HP, and also the Flashstor. And then if you double click on it, it should show you all the shares.
Yeah.
So it's working. That's easy. That's super easy. Oh, now my OCD is getting the best of me. It's missing updates. Wonder what else it's missing. That's what I thought. So we'll just download that for the little mini PC we're using here. And we'll go back full screen on camera 1. And does anybody have any questions now that I can answer for you in regards to this unit? I mean, kind of learning it together. But between myself and other members of the chat, maybe we can get answers to your questions. Looks like we've got 270 people watching right now. Welcome in, everybody. Taco says, I don't understand domain names and host names. Camera girl? Do you want to explain the difference between domain names and host names? Every device on a network would have a name. That would be a host name. But a domain, on the other hand, would be something that would be like a service you're connecting to. So, for example, this little mini PC is not a server. So this wouldn't have a domain name. This would be a host name.
Yes.
And so you can come here. So host name versus domain name. Where?
So a host name is a specific device, one singular appliance, computer, whatever that might be.
Even your Nest thermostat would have a host name.
Correct.
Every device on the network has a
If you
name.
set it up, yes.
Okay.
A domain name is a top level domain that it's the way to reach either a primary website or is the top level domain for the name of your company. Depending on how you set it up, it can be public or it can be private, but inside your company would be a domain and that domain would have a name. And you can use that domain to make it public and make it accessible via the web, or you could use it internally only on a private network.
So if I'm going to something.com, if I'm going to something in my web browser, I'm going to a domain.
Yeah, it's a top level domain.
Not a host.
That is correct.
But everything connecting to the network has to have a name. And that's referred to as a host name.
Doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to?
You can have an IP.
And just use its IP, but that
Correct.
but that would still be its name though, wouldn't it? By default. If
Correct.
lacking a name, its IP address would be its name.
Yeah, but
And we don't just say
DNS involved or not. So are you going named IP?
Oh, okay. So instead of having to connect to 192.168,
Correct.
we can just connect to Flashstor
It's
6.
preferable to have a host name and then have that name directed to an IP
It's no
address.
different than a phone book in
Yeah.
your smartphone. It's
Correct.
easier to connect to Camera Girl than to connect to 867-5309.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Wayne Blackwelder said this video is very timely. I have a Netgear Ready NAS Duo I've used since September of 2009. It's worked perfectly, and I'm looking to replace it to get something more up to date. Zvi wants to know if I sent an email to Chewy support. I did, and it says allow 48 hours for a response. Just so you know, that is the standard response. It doesn't necessarily say you have to wait 48 hours, but up to 48 hours. So we'll give them 48 hours. Actually, I'll give them as long as they need, quite frankly. And then once they respond back, I'll see what they say and I'll share it with you when I have something more to share. But this isn't going to happen quickly. And that's in reference to the video we did, was it yesterday we did the Chewy? Yeah, so that's from yesterday's video. But given the time difference, and of course they don't celebrate Memorial Day, so they should be at the office on Monday. But they could have holidays we don't know anything about here. And it does say, you know, these are our normal hours of operation minus Chinese holidays. But I don't know what that means. I don't know what the Chinese holidays are. They could have given us the dates. Thomas Backenstow said she was cool and very helpful. Patrick Russa said, I just dated myself with Jenny's phone number. And yet everybody knows it. So you just dated yourself by knowing it.
That's true.
So what happens if we plug in the HDMI port into the NAS now? That's a fair question. Let's see. Just unplug it from here and plug it in here. And let's take a look at what HDMI input shows now. Still the same. Still nothing. Nothing. Isn't that weird? I wonder if that's just to output media files directly to like a projector or something. I thought this was going to be like a mini PC where I could just plug directly into it, but I've had to bring out another PC in case you weren't watching. She was watching in the other room. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to tinker around with it. Are you going to want to take this and use it to try Savage? I'd be kind of curious how it works for you and whether or not you won't. So you've got the big helicopter and you've got the mini helicopter. And the mini helicopter is your home theater PC that you're using. And before that, you had the Intel NUC and you were having some overheating problems with that, I think. It was just, but I've got it. It's running fine for me. So I don't know what's going on over there. And then you had also the Ace Magician.
Yeah.
And then, so right now it's the mini helicopter?
It is. I switch between.
Do you think it would be possible to replace the Ace Magician and mini helicopter just for this and still have all the same functionality?
I need to go through that and
Yeah.
look at the apps.
Yeah.
App is.
So you're going to test this for me, but you're going to give it back. Because otherwise, because my plan was just to replace the Synology, copy everything off the Synology onto it. Like I would set, but yes, but if you're going to take it, then what's the point? Because when you're done with it,
Yeah.
you'll have all these apps that I don't want, and I'm going to wipe it and start again. So I don't want to spend all that time copying terabytes onto this if I'm just going to turn around and reformat it again. Because I don't want to uninstall and unconfigure. I'm just going to reset. So you can do whatever you want to with it and then report back after, I don't know, a month or something. It's going to be longer than a month. Well, whatever it is. And if we get to a point where you love it so much that it's, you know, you can pry it from my cold dead hands, then we'll at least bring it over here and do a follow-up video on why you're refusing to return it. Otherwise, I expect it back.
If I take it and like it, you're not getting it back.
Well, and that would be an honest review. But you'll use it in a way I'll never use it. Like, I just want it for file storage. So this is like way overkill for me. But on the other hand, it's so small and convenient. Like I said, I'm not even going to use the 2.5 gig ports. Would you use the 2.5 gig ports?
I would.
You would. Yeah, so you'd be a better tester for this than me in that regard.
But besides Sav, Radius.
Roy says I should sell it to you. So let's see, we've got 6 drives at $200
I need to
each.
be paying for my camera work.
Hold on a minute. So
And the
6,
thumbnails.
I gotta do the math here. 6 drives at $200 each is $1,200. This was $450, so we're at $1,650. And there's probably about 120 in sales tax. So let's just round it to 1,800. So I'll sell it to you for 3,600.
Yeah, so that's 6 thumbnails and 2 days of camera work.
You're expensive. Holy cow. B. Jenkins says it's a 5 to 6 week delivery time from Amazon. Yeah, just do what I did and order it from Newegg. Just go to newegg.com and search for Flashstor, and you should see the options up there, because that's where I got it from. Do you have to have the pro version of Windows to use networking? No, you do not. You only need pro version of Windows if you, in regards to networking, if you're logging into a domain server. This is not a domain server. I've never, ever shown a domain server on this channel in all the years I've been doing this. Because
Can I have clarified domain?
What?
That's in that room.
Okay.
So just to help clarify a little bit, think of a domain as a collection of hosts. So it's a top level and it's a collection of stuff.
What is top level? Explain TLD, top level domain.
Top level domain is the primary domain that is like the root folder. And then underneath that, you can have whatever you want. So domain is a collection of stuff under that top level domain.
So the top level domain would be like CareyHolzman.com.
Correct.
And then /shop. Or
Correct.
we use Amazon. Amazon.com is the top
Is the
level.
top level domain.
And then the slash, anything that follows the slash.
And everything underneath the domain name is a collection of stuff, like a collection of host names, or a collection of sites, or pages, or whatever it is you want underneath your domain. The domain does not have to be public, but it can be both private and public, but it's still a collection of stuff. It could be a work group name. It could be the name of a company. It's the top level that has a collection of stuff underneath it. The host name is one specific device, one specific computer, one specific NAS. It's just one single specific thing. That thing has a name or a host name. The domain is the collection, the top level that contains all of that stuff underneath. Does that help clear it up?
There's probably a Wikipedia page that can get into more detail
Sure.
on that. And I think
Sure.
there's probably some very good YouTube channels that do a great job of explaining that.
Sure.
Let me switch back over here. Let's take a quick look. And let's go over to HDMI input. Right click, screen, Carey. Oops. Right click, full screen. Okay. Sure why that came up. Must have tapped on the keyboard or something by mistake. Let's jump over to YouTube. And let's type in domain versus host. Difference between a domain name, registrar, DNS, and hosting. Oh no, that's not really what we're talking about in this. Demystifying host names and domain names in Linux, and how server naming benefits you. That would probably be okay. In this case, they're referring to domain names and web hosting and kind of the same thing. And there's the top level domain we were talking about earlier. What is a domain name, a host name, and TLD? I think this is the one I would recommend. This is from Web Hosting How To. So there's going to be there's going to be channels that are explaining this in the for the purpose of setting up your own website and understanding when you're answering the questions that need to be answered to set up a website. Here's another one: domains versus hosts explains. That's very old, but you know what? 4x3, only 9 thumbs up. We'll give it an extra thumbs up. Signed in. This may be good. And then, of course, if we just Google it, host names versus domain. The host name represents the network or system used to deliver a user to a certain address or location. The domain name represents the site or project that the user is accessing. One example is the use of various networks to access educational websites.
Not a very good explanation.
No, it isn't. Typically, the domain name will consist of the identifier for a specific school's web domain, You know what? Let's go back because this still seems to be in reference to setting up a website.
Yeah.
Superuser is a good website. I like Superuser. Host name is the name given to the endpoint, the machine in question, and will be used to identify it over DNS if that is configured.
Yeah.
A domain is the name given to the network itself. It will be required to reach the network from an external point like the internet. That seems simplified, maybe a little too simplified. When you get into networking, things can get really complicated. We get into subnets and masking. We get into DNS, and NetBEUI, and TCP/IP, DHCP, IP addresses. Yeah, SMTP, FTP, Telnet. I mean, there's all kinds of levels of. What did you say? Come here for a second. Come back here. Because this is something I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 layers to networking.
You mean like the
7?
OSI layers?
What's an OSI layer?
An OSI layer is each level that a network uses and a host uses to communicate over the network. So the easiest way to remember it is all people seem to need data processing. P for processing actually means the physical layer. That's the first layer. Then you go up from there. So A is application.
How many layers are there?
There's 7.
7 layers.
Mm-hmm.
All people seem to
need data processing.
All people seem to need data processing.
Correct.
And the first letter of each of those words is how
Represents
you remember
what layer,
each layer.
Okay, correct.
Yeah. Can't even reach them. All right. Thank you.
I was a network engineer for enterprise, not really consumer based, but the consumer stuff is built on the same logic. So a lot of it's kind of easy to go from one to the other, but you still have to kind of change the way you look at it and your logic behind what it is you're setting up when you go from enterprise to consumer based. So, yeah.
Martin Wolfert says, if you really want to complicate networking, dive into VLANs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was a network engineer, so absolutely, yeah. But I love VLANs and I love setting them up. One of my skills.
Drone Shot said you can get a domain name and you can redirect to your web server on the NAS if you want to run a web server.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
You can. Of course, you have to pay for the domain name.
So Roy Glass says APIPA, but that's only 5. You said there were 7.
But all people seem to need data processing.
So what's APIPA? Ron, my friend Ron says he was Net Plus certified, but he can't remember this stuff. That Novell networking class really came in handy. Good old Banyan Vines. Not a lot of job opportunities for that skill these days.
Automatic private IP addressing.
Automatic private IP address is APIPA. So that's totally different from the layers. Charles says he was NetWare certified. Yeah.
IPA is what happens when you don't get an address from DHCP. That's how you wind up with the gate address.
You need to run a Asustor portal app to drive the HDMI output, says Wintermute. Yeah, that's not important to me. I'm not going to do that. I just wanted it for setup. I just didn't want to have to bring out another PC. Now, normally I would just have used the laptop in the other room, but that wouldn't make for a very interesting video if you don't see me and you can't see what I'm typing. So for that reason, I was going to plug it into the HDMI port for the ease of the instruction and to share the experience. But I had to use the mini PC. Beyond that, I have no reason to use the HDMI port. But for everybody who perhaps would use that portal for some reason and would use the HDMI port for some reason, there's the answer. Nothing I'm going to use, but I appreciate that you looked that up. Okay, Cordius Technology says, I just got done barbecuing. How's your day? Also, as a working technician that works for a hospital, my side business is about to build 2 systems for a client on Memorial Day. Awesome show. Right on. No, everything's good. We're having a nice holiday weekend here, trying to keep it stress-free. Barbecued yesterday and probably be reheating some of that tonight. So I guess we'll wrap this up here. The Asustor Flashstor 6. I like it. So far, I don't see anything I don't like. The HDMI port didn't work as I expected, but that's okay. It clearly had a different design use in mind than what I thought it would be. Again, I thought this was mostly just a mini PC, and it still kind of is. But I will have an update on the Chewy PC when there's information to be shared. So give that a few days. We've got a Morphine M9 mini PC to review. That's a budget like N100 Celeron style processor. And that one looks really promising. I've already taken it out of the box and started doing the updates with it. And we have, oh, speaking of RAID, I have the High Point SSD RAID controller card that'll take 4 NVMe drives. So I've got 4 more of these 4 terabyte drives. I had a total of 10 of them. So 6 are in there. The other 4 that I have left, those are going to go into the High Point RAID controller card. And we'll put that into the, I don't know, either one of the 13500 builds that I've done. So whether that's going to be the live mixer build or the Gen 5 SSD test, I don't know which one, but we'll test and see what the performance is of moving the files within itself, how much faster that is, and whether or not it's worth it. It's an $800 RAID card, and I think it'd be good for video storage. Again, as a content creator, having an area that I can read and write to very quickly from within the device I'm using, it could be very beneficial for me, even though when I'm done with the final outputted file, I would copy it to the NAS. But the benefit of having the RAID card with all that storage, would be 16 terabytes, is I could have it on the NAS and keep it on the workstation. I wouldn't be in a hurry to free up the space on the workstation, in other words, because I'd have so much more space. I also got, where did I put it? The Rengzena, I don't know how to pronounce that. This is a Gen 4 M.2 NVMe drive that is 2 terabytes in size, and it's supposed to run like 7,300 megabytes per second. And it's the cheapest that I have found that on Amazon, or anywhere for that matter, that runs at these speeds, at this capacity. So 2 terabytes Gen 4. And I will show you, let's go back over to, let's go to Amazon here. Let's see if I can find it. This is the S880, wrong keyboard, S880 2 terabyte drive. Capture that. So this drive is 2 terabytes, Gen 4, up to 7,300 megabytes per second, which is the same as Western Digital's drive does at much higher price. It's $89.99. I just don't know this manufacturer, but it looks like it meets all the same specifications of drives costing much more. I mean, it's showing up to 6,800 megabyte write speed. I mean, that's pretty darn quick for $89. Is it worth it? I mean, there's 1,679 ratings, averaging 4.5 stars. So I'm going to say this would be great. This is a 5-year warranty on here. And like on the build I did, the live mixer build, the drive I put in there is worth a lot more money than this one. So I think I'm going to put this one in there. And that person can also be my guinea pig for testing out its reliability. But I think performance-wise, it's going to match the SK Hynix drive. That's, what is that, $156? This is nearly half that price with the same performance. So I've got a review of that coming up, along with the Highpoint RAID card, along with the Morphine M9, and what else is in my stack over there? Just stuff going on. We still have to do some more giveaways, especially it's Memorial Day, right? People in service. We want to give these out primarily to people that are in public service or retired in public service. So whether that's military, or public, police, fire. Did I say public? I meant military, police, fire, paramedic, any sort of public service, and especially to people in need. We want to focus to people in need, not just giving away computers to give away computers, but with the idea that we're helping people. These computers are Core i5 6th Gen 6500 processor with Wi-Fi, like a 256 gig or 500 gig drive, depending. It's all solid state. And they run Windows 10. They are not Windows 11 compatible, but Windows 10 doesn't expire until October 14th of 2025. So I think these are good to use until the end of 2025, by which point I would either take it offline or put a different operating system on it that's supported, like Linux, or unless Microsoft reduces the requirements for TPM and Secure Boot, if they do that, then this will continue to work fine. But it's just intended as a temporary solution for a couple of years to help people out. And so we've got about 24 of those to give away. And that giveaway will be coming up. Well, we'll break them into several giveaways, because I'm not going to get slammed with doing 20 at once. I'll do a couple at a time until we're done with them. And that'll also extend out the giveaway time for folks just discovering us. And if you're a part of the community, if I see you in the chat room regularly and I recognize your name and you've nominated yourself, you're more likely going to get selected than some stranger who's just popped in to get a free computer. Not that I'm opposed to giving computers to strangers, but if I have to choose between somebody who I regularly see in a chat who participates or somebody I regularly see in the comments who participates, if it's between somebody who participates and someone who doesn't, I'm going to pick the person who participates to show my appreciation for their participation. But it's not a prerequisite. You don't have to participate to be selected as a winner. And I'll get into all those details when we do the giveaways, which will start up again here very soon. Garfield Rupe says, I'll see you tomorrow on the members only live stream. Yes, every Monday at 1 o'clock, I do a live stream for people who are in the chat room that have the gold badge next to their name. Those are supporters to the channel. They pay $9.99 a month, and that helps pay for all this stuff. Those memberships are what is enabling me to do more than just sit in a Barca lounger with a microphone and talk about the news. I actually am doing work, and I'm able to take a look at some of the latest hardware that's come out and afford these drives and everything else primarily because of those supporters, and also for people that give contributions in Super Chat and PayPal. Folks like Mark Gaines and Peter Laycock and John Jack Wilson, who continually contribute, are really benefactors of this channel. Much of this content would not be possible without their assistance in that way. And at the same time, I can be open and honest about how I feel. I don't have to, I'm under no contractual obligation with the manufacturer about what I'm going to review, when it has to be reviewed, what deadline there is, that they have to see it before I can air it, so I can't do it live. So because of those contributions, that's what enables this content to even happen. So my deepest appreciation to them. And one way that I show that appreciation is that they have access to some videos that non-supporters don't get and never will get. It's just a reserved thing as a benefit of membership, as my way of saying thank you. And there are other benefits that, as I come up with them in my head, will go to members, and that's all private. So the general public doesn't even know what's going on. But more importantly, it's not as a bribe or anything. It's just my way of saying thank you and to encourage people to help keep me sponsor free, or at least the sponsors that I have, I believe are offering you guys a really good benefit, really good deal, like the Windows and Office keys from VIP CDK deals, upstanding company. Everything's on the up and up. It's great support, wonderful, amazing prices. Same with RoboForm. As far as I'm concerned, it's the only good password manager out there. I'm still working with Acronis to get like a year-round discount, but from time to time, Acronis, once or twice a year, will do a special discount just for my viewers. And this applies to everybody, not just the members. This applies to every viewer. These discounts are available, as well as Instant House Call. And there's no discount on Instant House Call, but you can download it for free to try it. I think it's a 15-day free trial. And if you need more time, just email Instant House Call. They're easygoing. They'll extend your time if you need it. And was there anybody else? It's very limited, the number of sponsors I have here. And you'll see I'm not interrupting with in-product placement during the video or anything like that. So I can really maintain this level of honesty and integrity. And I'm happy to see a lot of other channels are picking up on this. So I see folks like Graythorn is not taking any sponsorship from system integrators, since that's what he does. He reviews pre-built machines, gaming machines, and doesn't want to have his integrity questioned. Gamers Nexus doesn't want to have their integrity questioned. So they're very limited in what sponsorships they take on, and they pay for all their own travel and all this other stuff. So I'm seeing more and more content creators pointing out what I've been pointing out for years, which is most of the content you're seeing on YouTube from the giant content creators are nothing more than big advertisements. You don't realize that. It's not clear. My joke is if your ad blocker really worked, it wouldn't let you watch some of the content created by the million-plus subscriber tech channels. Those are usually just big commercials. And that's okay. It's just that they're disguised to look like independent reviews, but they're really not independent, because if they were to say something that wasn't flattering, there's a good chance they lose that sponsorship. And yeah. And that's okay if that's what they want to do. I just wish that that was more transparent than it is. But I'm happy to see the content creators that go out of their way to explain that they don't take certain sponsorships, or there's certain things they won't take sponsorships for because they feel it jeopardizes their integrity, and that comes first. So right now, that's essentially the only way you can tell. If they don't make a video explaining that, or if they don't keep emphasizing it, there might be a reason for that. So mucho respect to the folks who put their integrity first and the money second. Patrick over at ServeTheHome, they're also in many ways viewer funded. So when Patrick is buying the equipment, even the mini PCs, he's buying those. He's not getting those for free. But sometimes Patrick can get like $60,000 servers to review for the channel. Clearly, he's not buying those. That would be crazy. But you know, there's a certain price point where you're like, there's no way to expect the community to pay for that. But at the same time, there's a way of accomplishing that. It's full disclosure. Here's how we got it, and here's what it cost us, and we have to give it back. Stuff like that. That goes a long way with me. And it's certainly when I see other content creators that take the time to say, you know, we're paying for this stuff. Those are the content creators I want to support. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's an eye-opening experience of NASs to come. I do think in 10 years' time, every NAS is going to be this way. Just like the mini PC was kind of rare in 2013 when I first showed off the Intel NUC, and now no big deal. It's very reasonable to have a mini PC replace your desktop nowadays. They're very inexpensive. There's a lot of variety to choose from, different hardware, from gaming to office work to media servers, or home theater PCs rather. Not a media server. Well, I suppose if it was in the home, media servers, okay. And then I suspect this is going to be the normal. Having big NASs with multiple hard drives are going to be for people that need an outrageous amount of storage. So I guess what I'm saying is this is the only product on the market in the consumer space for NVMe NAS, and I think we're going to look back at this and go, I forgot about those days. But I'm liking it for a first generation product. Yeah, I think they did really, really good on a first gen product here. It's only going to get better from here. Can I repeat the link for the Microsoft software keys? I don't say the link. You have to go into the video description underneath my videos. If we, for example, go to, let's go back to HDMI input here. Let's see, full screen. So if we were to go to YouTube, yeah, YouTube really needs to do more to make viewers aware of the video notes. This is a lot of time spent in creating them, and people don't know they're there. But if we type in, let's just say CareyHolzman, all one word, that'll bring up my channel. Right, CareyHolzman. So here's today's video that's live. If I bring up this live video, pause here. Right down here, it says show more. And this has got all the information about the NAS, the NVMe drives, the YouTube channel for NASCompares and ServeTheHome that have done reviews on this same unit that I would encourage you to watch. These are all the links for the Windows and Office keys using the coupon code CAREY for an extra discount. And if we continue down, we see the best remote software for remote support. Instant House Call, there's your link, RoboForm, 30% off using this link, no coupon code necessary if you use this link. This is how you can join the channel here if you want to support me and support the community. And you can also alternatively send an Amazon gift card if you want to do that. But that doesn't make you a supporter. It doesn't give you access. That's all controlled by YouTube. So the only way you get access to the supporter-only stuff is you have to sign up through YouTube's way. But there's my Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer and Netfix tool and the chipset notifier, which I really don't think people need anymore for AMD. Everything you see in my videos is available for purchase via Amazon. This is my store link. You can follow me on Twitter here. And then, of course, we have our tags. So all of this is in the video notes of every video. Pretty much you watch from any content creator, they're going to have video notes or a video description. And even if you're watching on your TV, usually by using the arrows on the remote, you can scroll down, select that area, see it on any device, whether it's a phone, a television, a tablet, it's always there. Just may not be obvious to see that. And that's where you'll find those links, and those links are under every video that I do. And my thanks to the folks at VIP CDK Deals for supporting us, because that's also helping in a major way for me to buy equipment that I can use to review and make content with. It sure as heck beats reaching out to a company and hoping that they bless you and approve of you to review their product, but there's going to be strings attached. We're going to send you this product, but in return, you're going to post a video by this date, and you're going to send us that video for approval and make any changes that we want made. And until we give you our okay, you won't publish that video. When we do give you the okay, you will publish it on or by a date we specify. If you fail to meet any of those requirements, they'll never send you anything ever again. I don't want to be in that position. I want to review what I want to review, when I want to review it, and how I want to review it. And that means I have to buy the equipment. And so right now, we're good on content for the next couple of weeks, which is good. I have another live mixer build to do, not to mention reviewing this and the RAID card, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that's how we keep it going. So thank you so much for joining and participating. And thank you to my members and my moderators and my regular viewers. And yeah, I appreciate your kindness and your helping each other in the chat. That I love to see that. Do I use a home theater PC? I do not. I use a Synology NAS, and I can play the files through my Fire Stick TV. So I just use a Fire Stick. I don't really watch much TV. I don't have time. So if I get a half an hour of TV in a day, it's probably on average what I will do. Some days go by, I don't watch any TV at all. Just there's no time. There's so much work going on between the YouTube channel, trying to set up deals with, you know, having mini PCs sent for review, along with my real job, which is working as a technician and a managed service provider. It tends to eat up a lot of my time. Sometimes you just need to unwind a little bit and put on the TV, and I don't have patience to watch commercials. You know, if I can watch anything either from my Synology or I'm a premium member on YouTube, so I don't have to watch ads. Most of the TV I watch is YouTube. What a shock. I very rarely watch network TV anymore. I don't even have a network TV antenna or cable service in Studio B. I don't have it. Thank you, camera girl. And thank you for the thumbnail. She did a great job on the thumbnail. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. I'll see you all very soon. Members only video tomorrow at 1 o'clock Phoenix time, as always. So members, I will see you then. Everybody else, we'll see you soon thereafter. Until next time, bye for now.